The year 1914 began like any other, but beneath the surface of everyday life in Europe, tensions were rapidly escalating. The continent's great powers, bound by alliances and fueled by nationalism, eyed each other with suspicion. On a sunny June day in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, a seemingly insignificant event would light the fuse of global conflict. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were visiting Sarajevo. As their motorcade drove through the crowded streets, a young Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip saw an opportunity. Princip fired 2 shots, mortally wounding the Archduke and his wife. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand sent shockwaves across Europe. Austria-Hungary, outraged by the act, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding satisfaction and blaming them for the assassination. Serbia, backed by its ally Russia, hesitated to accept all of Austria's demands. Diplomatic efforts to avert the crisis failed, and within weeks, Europe tumbled into the abyss of war. To understand the outbreak of World War I, we must first unravel the complex web of alliances that entangled the European powers. On one side were the Central Powers, consisting primarily of Germany and Austria-Hungary. These two empires, bound by history and ambition, sought to maintain their dominance on the continent. Arrayed against them was the Triple Entente, an alliance of France, Russia, and Great Britain. France, still smarting from its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871, desired to regain its lost territories of Alsace-Lorraine and curb German power. Russia, a vast empire, saw itself as the protector of Slavic peoples, including Serbia. Great Britain, wary of any single power dominating the continent, was committed to maintaining the balance of power in Europe. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand provided Austria-Hungary with a pretext to crush Serbian nationalism. Austria-Hungary issued its ultimatum to Serbia, confident that its powerful ally, Germany, would back its play. Germany, eager to assert its growing might, issued Austria-Hungary a blank check, promising its unconditional support. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914, it set in motion a chain reaction that swiftly engulfed Europe. Russia, honoring its alliance with Serbia, mobilized its massive army. Germany, perceiving the Russian mobilization as a threat, declared war on Russia on August 1st. 2 days later, Germany declared war on Russia's ally, France. German war plans, drawn up years earlier, called for a swift knockout blow against France, before turning to face the Russian steamroller in the east. This strategy, known as the Schlieffen Plan, hinged on a rapid advance through neutral Belgium. The German invasion of Belgium, violating Belgian neutrality, drew Great Britain into the war on August 4th. The British, bound by treaty to defend Belgium, declared war on Germany. Within a week, Europe's great powers were at war, their armies marching towards battlefields across the continent. The opening weeks of the war saw a rapid German advance through Belgium and into northern France. The French army, caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of the German advance, fell back. Paris, the French capital, seemed poised to fall. However, in September 1914, the French, aided by British forces, rallied at the Battle of the Marne. The German advance was halted, but the war on the Western Front settled into a bloody stalemate. Both sides dug in, constructing elaborate trench systems that stretched for hundreds of miles across northeastern France. The trenches of the Western Front became a nightmarish world of mud, blood, and barbed wire. Soldiers on both sides endured horrific living conditions, constant shelling, and the ever-present threat of death. Attacks, often across open ground, resulted in staggering casualties. Part 5. The Eastern Front, a war of movement. While the Western Front was locked in a static war of attrition, the Eastern Front was marked by greater fluidity. Russia, with its vast reserves of manpower, launched offensives against Germany and Austria-Hungary. However, the Russian army, poorly equipped and led, suffered heavy losses. Germany, with a smaller but more modern army, inflicted several crushing defeats on the Russians, such as the battles of Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes. Despite these setbacks, Russia's sheer size and willingness to absorb casualties kept it in the war. The Eastern Front, though less iconic than the Western Front, continued to consume vast resources and claim millions of lives. Part 6. War in the Skies. World War I witnessed the birth of air power as a significant military force. At the war's outset, airplanes were still in their infancy, primarily used for reconnaissance. However, as the war progressed, aircraft technology advanced rapidly. Planes became faster, more maneuverable, and capable of carrying heavier bomb loads. The skies above the trenches became a battleground, with pilots engaging in dogfights and strafing enemy lines. Germany, taking the lead in airship development, deployed Zeppelins to bomb British cities. While the impact of air power on the war's outcome was debatable, it foreshadowed the increasingly important role of air power in future conflicts. Part 7. America enters the fray. For the first 3 years of the war, the United States remained neutral, though its sympathies lay largely with the Allies. However, several factors, including Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare and the infamous Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany offered Mexico a military alliance against the United States, pushed the US towards war. In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, decisively tipping the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The arrival of fresh American troops and supplies provided a much-needed boost to the Allied war effort. Part 8. The Home Front Total War. World War I was a total war, blurring the lines between the battlefield and the home front. Governments on all sides mobilized their economies and societies to support the war effort. Factories were converted to wartime production, churning out weapons, ammunition, and other supplies. Rationing became commonplace as food and other essential goods were diverted to the military. Propaganda posters urged citizens to do their part, encouraging enlistment, conservation, and support for the war effort. Women, traditionally confined to domestic roles, entered the workforce in large numbers, filling the gaps left by men fighting at the front. Part 9. The Armistice. The guns fall silent. By the fall of 1918, after more than 4 years of brutal warfare, the Central Powers were on the verge of collapse. Germany, its army shattered, and its people weary of war, faced mounting pressure on both the eastern and western fronts. On November 11, 1918, an armistice was signed in a railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne, France. The guns fell silent, bringing an end to the Great War. Part 10. The Treaty of Versailles, a flawed peace. In January 1919, representatives of the victorious Allied powers gathered in Paris to negotiate a peace settlement. The Treaty of Versailles, signed later that year, formally ended the war but sowed the seeds of future conflict. The treaty, heavily influenced by French desires for revenge and security, imposed harsh terms on Germany. Germany was forced to accept blame for the war, cede territory, disarm, and pay massive reparations. The Treaty of Versailles, though intended to prevent future wars, ultimately failed to address the underlying causes of the conflict. Germany, humiliated and economically crippled, became fertile ground for extremist ideologies, such as Nazism. The treaty also redrew the map of Europe, creating new nations, but leaving ethnic minorities trapped within the borders of hostile states. Part 11. The Legacy of the Great War. World War I was a watershed moment in human history, shattering old orders and ushering in an era of uncertainty. The war claimed millions of lives, devastated economies, and toppled empires. It also resulted in profound social and technological changes, accelerating the rise of mass media, mass production, and new technologies like aviation and radio. The war's end did not bring lasting peace. The Treaty of Versailles, with its punitive measures against Germany, continued to breed resentment and instability in Europe. The war also left a legacy of trauma and disillusionment, shaping the political and cultural landscape for generations to come. World War I, the war to end all wars, tragically paved the way for an even more devastating conflict just 2 decades later.